Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a psychic mediumship reading on the one and only Kurt Cobain. This has been a highly requested video in the past, and I hadn't touched this subject yet because lately I've been doing a lot of mediumship psychic readings on people who have passed, and I feel like a lot of people want to know, more than just the celebrities that are living. People want to know, about the celebrities who were very famous and passed. And for those of you that are not familiar with who Kurt Cobain is or was, he is a famous singer out of the band Nirvana. This was a popular band in the 1990s. He was the lead singer, vocalist, if I'm not mistaken, and he was excellent at what he was doing. And he also had a relationship with Courtney Love, and she had her own band, I believe. It was called Hole, I believe. Um, and this part of the reading is facts, that I'm just quoting, giving you the backstory. They had a daughter, Frances, together, and supposedly, they ruled his death a suicide. So I'm here to revisit this death and really give you the tea, give you what I see from spirit regarding his soul, and whether or not this was definitely suicide or was it murder. And that's what I will be working on today as I go through this reading. I don't know anything in the early 1990s. I didn't have cable, but I had some friends in school that would play, that Smells Like Teen Spirit song, and the album, of the album, Nirvana's album. And so I kind of knew about Kurt Cobain as I got older and would see I saw the TV that they had like documentaries and stuff about him, and I was very intrigued by it. So immediately what I get from Kurt Cobain is that he was someone who lived and breathed music. It was everything for him. But he also loved Courtney. When he met her, that relationship was everything for him. Like they were two, I almost feel like twin flames. I don't feel like they were soulmates, even though some people may say that they were soulmates. I feel like they were twin flames. Um, but Kurt, as a lot of people know, he had a lot of issues in his family life growing up. It's almost like his self identity. There was like a sense of it being disconnected. I feel like he knew who he was, but he also didn't understand why he was here on Earth with all of this, all these struggles. Because even though he had reached a certain level of fame with the band Nirvana, there was still a lot of struggles that he was going through mentally and physically. His health was not the best. I do get that he would have had something going on health-wise that was affecting his abdominal area. But not just that, also like migraines. I don't know if he suffered a lot of migraines. Um, Something like he couldn't go to sleep. It was just like very restless, and that's what he makes me go through. Also periods of crying, like, so there's rumors that he was bipolar. I can totally see that because I feel like I'm seeing visions of him sitting in a dark room with all the curtains shut and just crying and just with his headphones on, listening to CDs, and then smoking, and doing things that were, he fell into that pattern of substances and stuff to kind of numb the pain and whatnot. And he lived kind of more in that state of mind of living with us, the substances. Oddly enough, when I connect to his soul, what's coming through from his soul and from spirit is that there were some worries about finances. I don't know if he was very good at managing his money, but there was like this an obsession almost of trying to hold on to it very tightly, but somebody else like wanting to spin and spin and spin. And that's what's kind of coming through from his soul. So there were some worries about money here. I also am getting that him and Courtney, the relationship was not the best. They had their ups and downs. I feel like, I don't feel like he was a cheater. I honestly don't. I feel like he was very loyal to her, but I feel like Courtney had her own issues, and she may have accused him of that. I feel like she would have, she would have had some kind of affairs outside of their relationship. And she accused him of, having ego, and I feel like of being, um, emotionally unavailable for her, at many times. So I feel like she played victim in many ways when they were in this relationship together. In retrospect, I feel like she has also a lot of burden and guilt around his death. And it's almost like she knows things about his death when I tap into her soul that she has not revealed to people and that she probably will never reveal. I feel like she feels guilty in many ways for his death. There was a lot of secrets, a lot of cover-ups about his passing. Supposedly what is out there that is supposed to quote unquote facts is that it was a suicide. That they found a note, yet the note had no fingerprints of him. That he had a shotgun, and that there was a shotgun wound to the head, yet there was no fingerprints of his on the shotgun. A lot of other things that some investigator detective had gone through and looked at all of the evidence and kind of, really looked at it and scrutinized it. It didn't match up at all. And I do agree. I don't believe that he died from suicide. He wasn't the suicidal type. Even though he may have been, kind of depressed and going through all of this, he carried a lot of pain in his soul, but I believe he was an empath. I really believe that Kurt, and you can tell by his music when he sings, he would channel a lot of that energy and a lot of that, the sadness, the anger, all those lower vibrations and emotions into his singing, and into the music. But I do not feel like he was suicidal at all. Again, there's a lot of cover-ups in these stories, and the fact that his body was cremated immediately, after his passing. Like, why not have it buried, in the normal traditional cemetery, because again, his body could have been exhumed later on and done more studies to find out the truth. Again, I do not feel that he was suicidal. This was definitely murder, and there was two people involved, a male and a female, and it was a whole cover-up, and these two people know. And again, I'm not going to say who it was, but people can speculate. And I think a lot of people out there that were fans of it may even have like an idea more or less, or feel like they have an idea more or less. The female, whether this was Courtney or someone else, what I get from Spirit is that there was a female close to Kurt. The female was very much in a dark place herself, full of substances, full of self-hate, almost jealousy of Kurt in many ways, yet there was love. So this was a very twisted situation. And I feel like she felt like he wasn't there for her in many ways. Like she expected more out of him than what she, could have gotten out of the relationship. But again, I feel like there was a lot of cloudy mind, like a cloudy mind. Like when people are under the influence, they don't think straight, and they can go into these fits of rage and seek revenge. I do feel like this woman is that Spirit is speaking about is a very vengeful. Now, oddly enough, the female that I am getting, for some reason, I don't know if Courtney ever wore wigs or whatnot, but Courtney, we know that normally she had blonde hair, that's what I see. I don't know to this point because Spirit is showing me a brunette. So I don't know if Courtney was naturally brunette or there was someone else that Kurt would have been in contact with or that knew him that was brunette. But I get that this lady was very pale, and we know that Courtney is pale. And I get that this lady was very much like into gothic stuff, and she liked some like art, a lot of fine things, but kind of vintage, very much a vintage, a flair for vintage things. paintings or something about a portrait hanging, an art portrait, and her looking towards it and kind of admiring it. So I don't know if she liked that kind of stuff or if this is a different person. It feels like, it's somebody that was very close to him that would have been in a relationship with him. So again, I'm going to leave that as that for people to interpret the way that it is. I'm not saying that it was Courtney, that would have carried this out for any particular reason, but the undisputable fact is that she did love him, but their love was not the perfect love. It was very much like, twisted and painful and hurtful. And there was just a lot of things, that I feel like he didn't want to lose Courtney, but in many ways, there was arguments and separation at certain time, even with the child, with Frances, her being pregnant and whatnot. Just a lot of secrets, a lot of depressiveness, something about, threats being made to him. The threats that would have been made would have been between a male. I don't know if he suspected that perhaps she was having an affair with a bandmate or someone that was pretty close to them, but I get that the male that had short hair, dark short hair, brown, some facial hair as well, maybe sideburns at the most, but I get that definitely there was something of that nature going on here, and emotions that were running high. Now, they're also talking about how there was they're talking about the lady being a witch. So I don't know, again, if Courtney is into Wiccan stuff or was, but the person that they're talking about is a female that was very, very calculated, very much into Wiccan stuff, witchcraft, and magic, and she also had a lot of intuition. This is a woman that is very intuitive, that knew and could see through her third eye and knew what she wanted. And if she didn't like something, she would be the kind that would kind of, take it upon herself to do something. But money, like I said, in this industry, can cover up a lot of things, and there's ways to make things look staged, just like they did with Kate Spade and other celebrities that have passed, that have been murdered. And a lot of the fans that would be listening to this reading have speculated for years that Kurt Cobain was murdered, and they would be right. He was, and it's sad. It's disgusting to even think that that this is going on among celebrities. He passed way before his time. I don't feel like it was his time, and I don't get that this would have been, any kind of depressiveness, quote unquote, that he would have had. There's Spirit is talking about a third party situation, so there was definitely, like I said, somebody close to him that was female, and again, I'm not going to say names. She was seeing somebody else. That's what I get. I feel it wasn't him, it was her. And she was seeing somebody else, and he was aware of it, and he didn't like it. And there were some discussions about this. But that's why I feel from this female that is still living, that has not been, justice hasn't been held, she hasn't been held accountable, because everybody covered it up to think that it was murder. I mean, suicide. But I get that, this person, she carries a lot of demons, like dark secrets and stuff. Very, very dark, and a lot of this has haunted her. I feel like Kurt has haunted her. I feel like he stayed earthbound for quite some time after his passing, and he wasn't happy with how it turned out. And justice hasn't been brought yet to this, but a lot of people know, investigators and people even now, that Kurt didn't take his own life. That is just not how it happened. And I think even his family, I don't know if it was his dad or who, they came out and they said that they knew that it wasn't him that had taken his own life. And I feel like this person now is kind of, the female that is alive that knows about how he passed. I don't feel like she did it herself, but there was a male, like I said, that did it for her. And between the both of them, there's a cover-up story here. But I get that the female kind of has justified this and has twisted many things, you know, to make it justifiable in her mind. Again, I feel like this person is psychotic, honestly. There is a certain level of psychosis. And I'm not a doctor to diagnose anyone, but that's just what's coming in from spirit. And I feel like in many ways she is justified in her mind that Kurt had to pass, and that the what's that saying that I'm looking for? The just justifies the means, or something like that. Whatever that saying is, you know, however it goes, the ends justify, or I can't remember how it goes exactly, but that's kind of how I get all of this energy from this female. There's definitely a female that was involved in all of this, that knows the tea, that knows exactly what went on, and kept her mouth shut because of fear of being, you know, going to prison or jail, for fear of losing the money. It was almost like this was carried out to get justice in some kind of way, like she felt vindicated. So I don't feel like this was from Hollywood executives, you know, or music record moguls that carried out his death. This happened from some people that were close to Kurt. And again, I feel like this would have been people in the band that would have known about this. And I feel like there's been conversations from this female and that male that is still living that has slipped through the cracks, and people are like, you know, that would have, you know, been back there in that time around Kurt have kind of put two and two together, but they don't have the evidence, you know, necessary to accuse anyone per se, because again, no one was there. But I get that there would have been discussions months and weeks prior to his passing with this male and this female, and him and Kurt being aware that this person that he cared about was cheating on him with one of, you know, his quote unquote friends. So this was all about like love and money and betrayal and anger. A lot of anger from a female, just a lot of anger, a lot of darkness, to the point where I would even say, you know, that she had a spiritual attachment. When people have dark spiritual attachments and energies, especially if they are into Wiccan things and they are not aware of how to control or clear, and they do like spells, or they do, because I feel like she was into spells and things like that, and they open up doors that to like demonic energy and stuff like that, that they would not. I feel like she wasn't prepared. You know, I don't feel like she closed or sealed off her circle or whatever she did. There was something about magic spells and stuff like that going on from this lady. And I feel like she would have not closed certain doors. And she, along with that other guy that was close to Kurt, would have been influenced by this energy. Spiritual attachments are very real, people. It happens. A lot of this is not just rituals, you know, that are carried out in Hollywood. A lot of this is people who have curiosity or think that they have certain power through magic, and that they can control magic, and they can control spirits, you know, and control demonic stuff, or mock it. And in this case, I feel like she was dabbling with stuff like that, whether this was a Ouija board or her just, you know, doing a spell, calling upon something. There was something that was unleashed. There was a darker energy that kind of influenced them in many ways to act out in this kind of way. Now, had all of this betrayal not taken place around Kurt, and had he had more of his family present around him, and had he not been under the influence of substances himself, he would have been much, much stronger to not allow it to get to this point, to control his temper. I feel like this was all about temper. Like when I tune into his soul and everything, what I'm getting is that there was a lot about his temper, and he's saying he says that he understands why things happen the way that they did. So I feel like in many ways he doesn't blame he does blame her in many ways, this lady that and this guy, but he's made peace by now. He says that he's made peace, but there is still a part of it that he is, wanting justice to take place. And he says in many ways that this lady has received her justice and receives it every day, haunted by his memory, haunted by his face, dreams that she has, things that are haunting her, and she'll never have peace until the day that she passes, and the guy too. So their conscience is dirty. The conscience is very dirty, and the consciousness that they have is just a very low vibration. And I feel like eventually all of this that they've bottled up in secret is going to manifest like in some kind of disease, like either cancer or something in the heart space that is going to affect their body and ultimately to their own demise. Because when you are a low vibration and you've carried out something so heinous like this and covered it up, even though you've justified it in your justified the means in your mind, in many ways it creates a negative vibration and stagnation in the body, and sooner or later it's going to affect your health, and it's going to eventually. That's why a lot of people pass. A lot of people think it's, they develop diseases, but they don't understand. They blame the food that we are consuming. But a lot of this is not coming, a lot of these diseases are not coming from food that we consume, but rather from our own emotions and things that we have held on to. Like people who have killed other people and that are now in prison. Whether they're released or they're still serving parole or they're still locked up. A lot of these people have bad health conditions, and it's not because they're in prison or because they are on parole or because, they had a hard life, but it's the fact that we create our own karma in many ways. And those acts that we do, it affects us. We're held accountable by the universe. That's like the way that the universe holds us accountable sooner or later. So justice doesn't necessarily have to come through man-made justice. It can come through our own actions, and our own health will actually hold us accountable for it. And I feel like this female has her own issues right now with her health. It's not the best. I don't feel like she has a moment of rest, and it's always haunting her. It's always haunting her. But there are good actresses. I feel like this female is a good actress in many ways. That's what's coming across. In her mind, she's able to go in front of camera, and regardless of what is what interview or what's going on, it's like, she has this facade. In many ways, she doesn't want people to know the truth, and she will take it with her to her grave. And that is what is coming from Kurt. That's what he says. But he is very blessed for Francis. He does love Francis, and he does love Courtney, even though I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm not putting finger blame. I'm not going to be saying, who the name of the person that did it. But people are speculating. People have speculated about this for quite some time, and how much, Courtney knows about it. But he does love her. He has forgiven her. But in many ways, I feel like he did haunt her for a long period of time, and he was earthbound. He did haunt the woman, I should say, whoever it was, whether this was Courtney or another woman. But there would have been hauntings going on, paranormal things. And I feel like a certain point, this female also was acting very erratic, and a lot of this wasn't just because of bipolar or her own mental disorder, but of the burden that when you carry like a guilt for someone, or you're responsible for someone's passing, there is a certain level of guilt and a certain level of negative vibrations and energies that can affect you in many ways. But that is what it's all about now. That is what I see. And I feel like there are rats that know. There's people that know, and that's what is coming through from spirit. I see the symbol of rats. So whether or not somebody else is going to rat on this person or these people that were responsible for Kurt's murder, I feel like, sooner or later that there is going to be someone that comes out within the next 10 years, 10 years or less, there will be someone that comes out with information that knows what went down, or they were confessed. Somebody confessed to them what had happened. So we will see a little bit more about this coming out. I feel like there will be other documentaries made on Kurt Cobain. There will be some other information that is going to be eventually leaked, because again, I feel like the people that were surrounding this male and female that were responsible for Kurt's murder, there are other people that are, like Spirit is presenting as rats, that are going to eventually come out and speak. Because the truth can only be held for so long before it's exposed. So my heart goes out to all of Kurt's family, to his daughter Frances, to all the beautiful fans out there that still support Kurt and his music and whatnot. Again, this is just what I'm getting here. I'm not blaming Courtney, not blaming anyone else. I don't know Courtney at all. And again, this is all coming from Spirit, so only Spirit knows exactly what it is. These are just my insight, my from Spirit. It's just, this is for entertainment purposes only. And again, I have to say this, that disclosure, because I think a lot of people take it out of context and saying, will say that I'm blaming Courtney. I'm not blaming Courtney. Now, whether she is responsible or not, that's up for people to determine themselves. Again, the case has been closed. Things have come out in the media. If she, knows something and she hasn't said anything, sooner or later, the truth will come out. And that's her karma to live with. But, I feel like there's a lot of things that have been twisted in the media, things that have been omitted, etc. So all my best wishes to everyone listening to this podcast, or to this psychic reading. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and you can book a private reading by going to my website at www.raymondguzman.net/shop. Blessings and love and light.